this rustic cottage when they inherited their family's estate. At first, they discovered their family's long-lost history, but they got a shock when they found the home's link to a pair of outlaws named Bonnie and Clyde. For archaeologist Catherine Turner Pearson, this cottage near Waco, Texas was once forbidden territory.
I grew up next door, so we used to come over here when we were kids and kind of play when we weren't supposed to.
It used to be her grandfather's vacation lodge, but it sat empty for decades. That is, until Catherine and her husband Warren decided to make it their home. So it was 800 square feet when you started?
Right.
How many square feet is it now?
It's a little over 2,400, so it was quite a project.
The cottage was built out of logs and solid rock, so expanding it was no easy task.
We learned how to do a lot of things with jackhammers and sledgehammers that normal people don't do.
I began to look like Popeye after a while.
But as they started renovating, they began uncovering mysterious items left behind by Catherine's grandparents. The main room was a manly room. It came complete with old farm equipment and a double-barreled shotgun. This would be definitely for hunting.
Oh yes, mostly getting birds, small game.
There were also 2 fireplace pokers made from branding irons with the initials HLH. But Catherine's grandfather was Fred Turner, so who was HLH? Next, Catherine remembered that when she was a girl, her grandfather ran a store with a soda counter. Then, while working on a ceiling, she found proof: old restaurant china and a menu.
This was actually in the rafters in the room we're in right now. And they had the sandwiches here, and I love the fact that they raised the prices. I guess 20 cents wasn't enough. And
Yeah, you want egg in your sandwich, it's going up. We could just bring back the days of the 30-cent cheeseburger, huh? But then Catherine started finding more items that made her realize how little she knew about her grandfather's store. While digging through papers, she found old records mentioning some very strong medicine. Inventory of coca, leaves, marijuana,
etc., etc.
etc. My goodness.
That looks like it might be morphine there.
Oh yeah, it is.
And there's codeine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's opium. That right there says opium.
Opium. Ask for it by name. What kind of store was Grandpa running? There were also photographs of her grandfather that she didn't quite understand. What's he holding there?
You know, I'm not really sure, and I'm really afraid to
I
ask.
know. That's an evil-looking tool. We could pull a massive tooth out of something. Catherine needed answers, so she invited relatives over to take a look, and what she learned about her grandfather surprised her. Turns out Fred Turner was a pharmacist, whose store was called Turner Drug Store. Whew, at least all that stuff was legal back then.
This is the regulations for dispensing opium or coca leaves that Granddaddy had, and in there was actually some of his paperwork on who got the drugs.
The drugstore also sold veterinary supplies, which we hope explains that mean-looking tool Grandpa was holding. The store also had a lunch counter that attracted the famous as well as the infamous.
Some of the famous people that came in, there was LBJ, who was a friend of my grandfather's, and then one time Bonnie and Clyde came in, and of course everyone knew who they were. They were very famous at that point.
The Romeo and Juliet of bank robbers in the 1930s, Bonnie and Clyde called Texas their home. So were they on the run?
No, they didn't seem to be in a big hurry. They came in and they sat at the fountain, and he said they ordered a hamburger and I think he said a malt, and you know, they ate, they paid,
They paid,
left,
and then walked next door to the bank and cleaned them up.
Probably.
Turner Drug Store was pretty exciting, and Grandpa Turner's cabin invited celebrities as well. He was the founder of a men's-only hunting and fishing club, and one frequent guest was a man named H.L. Hunt. Aha! That must be his initials on the branding iron, and Hunt was a legendary figure in Dallas.
He was at one time one of the 10 richest men in the United States. He was a multi-millionaire when $1 million was like a billion.
$1 million.
It was $1 million. They actually modeled J.R. Ewing after in the show Dallas. He made all this money in oil and then later cattle, but it was mainly the oil business. He was the granddad of the Texas oil mint during the oil boom, the very first boom.
For For Catherine, renovating her grandfather's cabin has given her a new appreciation for a man she only knew as Grandpa. But there's just one thing missing at his old vacation cabin.
I'm still looking for that buried treasure. I know there's just a whole can of gold coins somewhere.
The lost Ark of the Covenant. We found it. Up next, an old Kentucky home with stately columns, a gorgeous stairway, and a mystery in the woodwork.